I cheated on you. She didn't scream it. She whispered, like it was a prayer she didn't believe in. The words didn't echo. They sank, like a blade pressed, not thrown. And for 5 long seconds, he didn't even blink, just stared at her lips, wondering if they had ever told the truth at all. They were standing by the car, midnight, in the same driveway where he had once carried her home in his arms because she twisted her ankle, dancing in heels too high. Tonight, her feet were bare and her heart cold. If you find value in real stories told with clarity and truth, make sure to subscribe to stay informed with Black Grace Diaries. This wasn't a fight. Fights have noise, flailing arms, the heat of adrenaline. This was silence, and something far more dangerous. She had finally said the one thing he could never unhear. How long had he suspected? Maybe it started 3 months ago, when she began locking her phone before going to sleep. Maybe it was the second she said, "I love you," with a pause as if borrowing the words instead of owning them. Or maybe it was always there. They had just left his father's hospital room. Stage 4 lung cancer. He was dying, but smiling, telling Ethan to hold on to her tight. The irony now stung. Ethan leaned on the car, the cold metal grounding his rage. She stood in front of him, arms shaking, not from fear, but because some truths once released shatter the cage that held everything together. He wanted to ask, who? He wanted to scream, why? But the first question that fell from his mouth was, when? And just like that, she began to cry. Not the desperate kind, the guilty kind. Like every tear knew it came too late. It was before your father got sick, she murmured. The timeline broke something in him. Before? So all the hospital visits, the sleepless nights, the holding hands through pain moments, they were already built on betrayal? She had sat next to him during chemo, kissed his temple while knowing her hands had just held another man. Ethan clenched his fists, not to strike, but to contain. Because right now, if he didn't lock himself down, something else inside him would break loose, and he didn't trust what that would look like. Was it just once? He asked, voice colder than the October air. She blinked, slowly. Her silence was an answer. Then, it wasn't just sex, she confessed. I thought he understood me. The version of me that didn't have to pretend. The word pretend sliced him. Pretend? Was that what the last 6 years had been? He backed away, step by step, until his spine hit the driver's door. His breath fogged in the air, sharp and uneven. She stood still in her old college hoodie, his hoodie, but it didn't feel like hers anymore. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, she was a stranger. You're telling me this now. Why? Guilt? Or did he dump you, and now you're crawling back? She flinched. No, I ended it. I couldn't live with the lie. But you could live with the betrayal? He snapped. She said nothing. He pushed past her, opened the car door. But something made him stop. A memory. Their first road trip. Rain pouring, music blaring, her feet on the dash, both of them laughing like the world was still good. Now, there was only this, the sound of silence in a driveway that once meant home. "I was going to propose," he said quietly, "on your birthday. The ring's been in my coat pocket for weeks." Her knees buckled. She leaned against the porch railing, gasping like someone punched her in the gut, but no punch ever hit as hard as the truth unspoken. He didn't look back, not yet, but she whispered after him, "I'm pregnant." And this time, the silence shattered. "I'm pregnant." The words didn't land softly, they detonated. Ethan froze, half inside the car, one hand still gripping the door. His body stiffened like a man caught in a sniper's scope. No part of him moved, except his mind spiraling. She was crying now, but it wasn't the weepy, pitiful kind. These were the tears of a woman who realized too late that some consequences don't care about apologies. He turned back slowly, eyes locked, and asked the one question he knew he wouldn't survive the answer to. "Is it mine?" She hesitated. A single breath, that's all it took to collapse everything they'd built. She didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She said, "I don't know." The driveway blurred, not from the weather, but from something rising in his throat. Disgust, rage, loss, all fighting for the same exit. "You dropped this bomb on me now, hoping what? That I'd feel trapped? That I'd stay for the maybe?" She flinched. "I didn't come to manipulate you," she said softly. I needed to be honest before the baby comes." "The baby," he repeated. "You say it like it's a promise, not a curse." She flinched, but said nothing. What was left to say? Ethan stared at her belly, still flat, still undecided. A secret the world hadn't yet confirmed, but one that had already torn his world in half. "You lied to me, then you chose him, and now you bring me a consequence like it's some reconciliation gift?" "It's not a gift," she whispered. "It's a life." But Ethan had stopped listening. His vision tunneled, not at her, at himself, at the version of the man he had almost become. A fiancé, maybe a father, someone who still believed love had rules. "I can't do this," he said. "Not like this. Not anymore." He slammed the car door shut, but didn't drive away. Inside the vehicle, he gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering him to reality. Tears welled, but never fell.
Outside, she wrapped her arms around herself, the night colder than any truth she had confessed. And in that moment, neither of them knew. Someone else had heard everything. From across the street, under the shadow of a flickering porch light, a figure stood still. Not a neighbor out for air, not a stranger. It was Jordan, Ethan's younger brother. He had parked his car earlier that evening, 2 houses down, out of habit. Didn't want to wake anyone. He'd just flown in to surprise Ethan for their dad's birthday, maybe the last one. But what he walked into wasn't family. He had heard every word, the whisper, the timeline, the pregnancy. But what made his jaw tighten wasn't the cheating, it was her voice. Because he recognized it. Not just from childhood, not from all those weekends she tagged along for family brunches, but from something recent. A message, a voicemail. 2 weeks ago. Please don't call me again. I told you, we can't talk anymore." He hadn't recognized the number. He thought it was a wrong call, but the voice, it was her. Now hearing it again, begging forgiveness in Ethan's driveway, confirmed what his gut had ignored. Jordan had met her, and he hadn't told Ethan. He turned away from the scene, back pressed to the wooden fence, heart pounding, not just from guilt, but from fear. He hadn't slept with her, but they had met. Once. In a bar, she had messaged him, told him she was feeling trapped, that she needed to talk to someone who understood Ethan. He listened, bought her a drink, let her cry on his shoulder, and she kissed him. Just once. He didn't kiss back, but he never told Ethan. What if I had said yes that night? Jordan thought. Would I be the man standing there now, torn apart, broken, betrayed? Suddenly, a crash. Jordan looked up. Ethan had kicked the trash can, metal clanging against concrete. His knuckles were bloodied. He was unraveling. "I need to say something," Jordan whispered to himself. "I need to tell him everything." But another voice cut through the night before he could move. It was their mother, from the porch, arms folded, eyes sharp. "What's going on out here?" The past had company now. "What's going on out here?" Her voice was firm, sharper than the night air. Catherine Hayes didn't raise boys who broke down in the driveway. She raised men who stood their ground, no matter how deep the wound. Ethan didn't turn to look. His hand was still bloodied, the trash can tipped sideways like a casualty of truth. She stepped off the porch barefoot, silk robe brushing the concrete, eyes flicking between her son and the woman he once called home. "Mom, go back inside," Ethan said, voice hoarse. But Catherine saw the tears in the girl's eyes, the way she held her stomach. A mother knows. "How far along are you?" she asked. The girl opened her mouth, but no sound came. Jordan was frozen behind the fence, breath shallow. Every cell in his body screamed to run, to leave the night behind. But guilt has a gravitational pull, and this moment wasn't letting go. "I asked you a question," Catherine said again. Her voice wasn't cruel, but it carved through the silence like glass. 5 weeks, the girl whispered. Catherine closed her eyes, just for a second, as if counting to 10 wouldn't be enough. She needed a whole prayer. Then, "And you thought it was the right time to drop this tonight? After a hospital visit?" "I had to. He deserved the truth." Ethan turned now, not to her, to his mother. "She cheated," he said. No emotion, just the fact, like reading a report. "And she's pregnant, and it might not be mine." Catherine looked between them. Then her eyes moved, suddenly, sharply, across the street. She saw a shadow shift behind the fence, a figure too still, too familiar. "Jordan?" she said. He stepped out, slowly, hands up, not in defense, but in surrender. "I wasn't spying," he began. "I was coming over. I heard. Did you know?" Ethan asked. "Did you know she was cheating?" "No," Jordan said. "Too fast." "Well, kind of. Not like that. She called me once. Said she felt alone. We met. Nothing happened." "You met?" Ethan snapped. "You met with her, and you didn't tell me?" "It wasn't like that," Jordan said, stepping forward. "She was crying. I didn't even touch her." The girl dropped her gaze. "That's not true," she said quietly. The silence became heavy again. Ethan looked from his brother to his woman he once loved, to the child that might or might not be his. Everything he believed about loyalty, about blood, about trust, it was breaking. And then Catherine did something unexpected. She walked over to her eldest son, reached up, and slapped him. "Stop," she said. "Right now, before you say something you'll regret for the rest of your life." Ethan stepped back, stunned. "You're bleeding," she said, holding up his hand, "and not just here." Her eyes glistened. "This pain will rot you if you don't breathe, so breathe." He tried. God, he tried. But then his mother looked at her, the woman carrying a life that might be part of their family. "You lied to my son, but you told the truth tonight. And whether we like it or not, the next chapter has begun." And with that, she turned and walked back inside, leaving all three of them in the cold to choose what came next.
The cold didn't leave, even after Catherine shut the door behind her, even after the silence settled like ash. Ethan stood still, heart thudding like distant thunder. He wasn't sure who he was more angry at, her, his brother, or himself. She had said she was pregnant. Jordan had said they just met. His mother had said to breathe. But how do you breathe when the air feels rigged? He turned away, stepping onto the lawn. The grass, still damp from yesterday's rain, soaked into his shoes. But he kept walking, down the block, past the mailbox, past the oak tree where they once carved their initials on a dare. And then he remembered. The baby blanket. It was still in the trunk of his car. He had bought it last month, quietly, navy blue, soft cotton, embroidered in white stitching, little haze. He hadn't told anyone, not even her. He just had a feeling. He walked back slowly, opened the trunk, and there it was, still folded, untouched, waiting for a dream that now felt like a joke. Do I throw this away, or do I hold on to hope, even when it betrayed me? Behind him, she approached, hesitant, like someone stepping through broken glass barefoot. I didn't know I was pregnant when we ended. I thought it was stress, grief. But when I found out, I realized it could be yours. Could, he repeated, bitter. I'll take a test. I'll do whatever you want, she whispered. He didn't look at her, just kept his eyes on the blanket. What I want, he said, is to rewind time, to take back every hour I spent trying to make you happy. She flinched. But I can't, he continued. So now I need to decide. Do I become a father to a maybe, or do I walk away and become a stranger to everything? Jordan approached, keeping his distance. Ethan, I swear, nothing happened between us, but I should have told you she reached out. That was my mistake. Ethan turned, voice low. You were the only person I trusted without question, and now even that feels tainted. Jordan's mouth opened, but closed again. Some wounds don't need more words. They need time, or fire. Suddenly, Ethan pulled the blanket out and held it toward her. If this baby's mine, he said, you'll prove it. Not with words, but with action. You'll take the test, you'll give me space, and you'll stop trying to manage the damage. She nodded, tears falling freely now. And if it's not mine, he added, I want you to disappear. What if it is? She asked, voice trembling. He looked down at the blanket, then back at her. Then I'll be there, for the child, but not for you. And with that, he walked back inside, leaving her in the driveway, alone, pregnant, and bleeding, not from wounds visible, but from the kind that never stop aching. 3 days passed. Ethan didn't answer her calls, didn't check the messages, didn't open the door when she came by. He was in limbo, between rage and responsibility, between heartbreak and obligation. The baby blanket sat folded on the kitchen table. Next to it, a sealed white envelope. She had dropped it off without a word. No note, just her handwriting on the back. I told the truth. He didn't want to open it, didn't want to know, because knowing would mean choosing. But he did. Inside, a DNA test from a local clinic. The result, 99.98% probability of paternity. His world didn't collapse. It settled into a cold, shaking stillness. She had told the truth, at least this time. But that didn't erase the betrayal. It just made the future more complicated. As Ethan stared at the paper, a knock came at the door. Not hers, not Jordan's. It was someone he hadn't seen in 6 years. "Dad?" Ethan whispered, shocked. Thomas Hayes stood there, thinner, grayer, but alive. "You're supposed to be in the hospital?" "I checked out early," he said. "Doctors said the cancer's not going anywhere, so I figured I'd come home before it finishes the job." Ethan helped him inside. Thomas sat at the table, looked at the blanket, then the envelope. "That hers?" he asked. "Yeah." Thomas didn't ask more. He didn't need to. "Let me guess," he said, voice gravelly. "She broke your heart, now she's carrying the pieces." Ethan tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway. "You always told me loyalty was everything," Ethan said. "But what do you do when someone betrays you and gives you a life you never expected?" Thomas leaned forward. "You do what a man does. You draw the line between her and the child, and you never let that kid feel your pain, only your protection." Ethan looked away, tears fighting through the dam. "But what if I can't be around her without hating her?" he said. Thomas leaned back. "Then don't be. Be around your child. Be better than the man I was." Ethan stared at his father, this man who had once left their family for nearly a year without warning, only to return with a limp and a story no one ever fully believed. "You weren't always better," Ethan said. Thomas nodded. "But I came back, and that counts for something." Outside, a car door slammed, footsteps, and then her voice. "Ethan, I know you're in there." He stood. Thomas gripped his wrist. "Before you open that door, decide who you want to be when you face her. Not as her ex, not even as her judge, but as a father, because that's what matters now." Ethan walked to the door. He opened it. She stood there, hair messy, eyes red, hands trembling, but she was holding something, a small white onesie. On it, embroidered, "Daddy's Proof." He didn't speak right away. He just looked at the onesie in her hands, white and soft, trembling between her fingers.
Daddy's Proof. It was supposed to be cute. It felt like a verdict. "I'm not here to win you back," she said. "I know that's not possible." "Then why come?" Ethan asked, voice flat. "Because I don't want to raise this baby around lies. Not mine, not yours." He winced. It hit him harder than she probably meant, because even now, even after the betrayal, some small part of him wanted to lie, to say he was okay, that he'd figure it out, that they could co-parent like two civil people who never loved each other too much. But he wasn't okay, and the truth was messier than anything he had imagined. "I'll help raise the child, but I won't be part of your life," he said. She nodded, silent tears falling. No protest, no plea, just the quiet knowing of a door closing forever. Then, from behind him, his father spoke. "I wasn't there when Ethan was born," Thomas said, walking into view. She looked up, startled. "I was in jail," he continued. 3 months. Bar fight turned felony when a guy cracked his head on the sidewalk. Ethan turned to his father, stunned. "You told me you were deployed," he said. "I lied," Thomas said. "I was ashamed. I thought if I came back with a medal instead of a mugshot, you'd forgive me before you knew I needed forgiving." "Why are you telling me this now?" Ethan asked. "Because shame grows in silence," Thomas said. "And your son, if he is yours, deserves a father who fights truthfully, not one who wears a mask until the day he dies." The room went still. She wiped her face. Ethan clenched his jaw. Thomas looked out the window, like the wind could carry away 40 years of silence. Then Ethan took the onesie from her hands, held it for a moment, and said, "This isn't proof of forgiveness. It's proof of responsibility, and I will carry that. For him, not for you." She whispered, "I understand." "Good," he said, "because that's all I have left to give." She turned to leave, stopped at the porch. "You know he kicks when I listen to old jazz, your dad's music, remember?" Ethan didn't answer. He just closed the door. Behind it, Thomas stood still, hands in pockets, regret in his eyes. "We ruin women, sometimes because we're broken, sometimes because they are." Ethan shook his head. "No, we ruin ourselves, then we blame them for watching." The house was quiet, not the peaceful kind, the kind that settles when everyone has said too much and still not enough. Ethan sat alone at the kitchen table. In front of him, the baby blanket, the DNA result, and now, a small framed photo. It had fallen out of a book when he opened the drawer for some space to breathe. An old photo, faded at the edges, of him as a baby, wrapped in that same navy blue blanket his father had once folded with shaking hands. "Little Hayes," it read, barely legible now. In the photo, his mother was smiling, but Thomas in the background was blurry, half in the frame, half gone. "Like he always was," he murmured. But something in that picture whispered back, not regret, legacy. The question wasn't whether he could forgive her. He couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The question was, could he become the kind of father who didn't disappear into silence, shame, or memory? He stood, walked to the door, opened it. She was still parked across the street, sitting in her car, crying. When she saw him, she rolled down the window. He didn't ask if she wanted to come in. He didn't ask if she was okay. He simply said, "You can move in, until the baby comes. After that, we figure it out, together, but separately." She nodded, too stunned to speak. "There are rules," he added. "You sleep in the guest room. You don't touch my things. You don't talk to my brother. You keep your appointments." "Okay," she whispered. "And if you lie to me again," he said, voice low, "you walk out and never come back, not even for the kid." That landed.
because it wasn't a threat. It was the last bridge still standing. She opened the car door, slowly, carefully. He watched her walk toward the house that once was their home, now a halfway place between mistake and redemption. Inside, Thomas watched from the living room, nodding once. No smile, just approval, the kind men pass in silence. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The baby's first sonogram sat on the nightstand beside him. A shape not yet fully formed, a life not yet fully named. But something inside Ethan shifted. Not the pain, not the betrayal, but the realization. Maybe fatherhood isn't about being ready. Maybe it's about showing up even when it hurts. He closed his eyes. Outside, the wind stirred the leaves. Some let go, some held on. And in the driveway where it all broke, a single beam of porch light stayed on.